The Morales government and the geographical complexity of Salar de Uyuni chased away several transnational mining firms. Aramet from France, FMC from the United States, and POSCO from South Korea could not make deals with Bolivia. So they now operate in Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
Morales made it clear that any development of the lithium had to be done with Bolivia's Comebol, its national mining company, and Yacimientos de Litio Bolivianos, or YLB, its national lithium company, as equal partners. Last year, Germany's ACI Systems agreed to a deal with Bolivia. After protests from residents in the Salar de Uyuni region, Morales canceled that deal on November 4th. Chinese firms such as TBEA Group and China Machinery Engineering made a deal with YLB. It was being said that China's Tianqi Lithium Group, which operates in Argentina, was going to make a deal with YLB. Both Chinese investment and the Bolivian lithium company were experimenting with new ways to both mine the lithium and to share the profits of the lithium. The idea that there might be a new social compact for the lithium was unacceptable to the main transnational mining companies. Tesla and Pure Energy Minerals, which is a Canadian firm, both showed great interest in having a direct stake in Bolivian lithium, but they could not make a deal that would take into consideration the parameters set by the Morales government. Morales himself was a direct impediment to the takeover of the lithium fields by the non-Chinese transnational firms. He had to go. After the coup, Tesla's stock rose astronomically.
Pretty clear to see.
Mm-hmm.
And the corporate movements and the corporate control is absolutely anathema to democracy. Always has been. But there's another ingredient, Darren. Besides the somewhat obscured involvement with money and with the corporations, which usually is the case, there was another factor, okay? And that is this, and people don't realize, Morales' resignation came following his announcement early Sunday that he would hold new elections after the U.S.-dominated Organization of American States, known as OES, questioned Morales' October victory and claimed the vote was fraught with irregularities. Sounds like something out of Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Trump administration officials and Republican lawmakers like Marco Rubio were quick to parrot the OAS opinion. The role of the United States cannot be ignored, but it will be ignored, Darren. The role of the United States cannot be ignored. Code Pink wrote in an email to supporters on Monday. The State Department has actively opposed Morales since 2001 when it sought to weaken his political base. That was before he was even elected president, Darren. Since that time, the United States has funded President Morales' political adversaries, including civic groups in eastern Bolivia that attempted the coup way back in 2008. So what you have is the United States that claims it's atrocious to think other countries would meddle in our election. We not only have meddled in every election, we then turn around and call duly elected officials, such as Morales, as questionable, and then we go and support the overthrow of their elected position. This is the lawlessness that people from around the world are in opposition to real quickly. Corbyn from the UK, in complete contradiction to Trump, has condemned it. He calls it, he's the labor leader, as we know, said Sunday, to see Evo Morales, who, along with a powerful movement, has brought so much social progress, forced from office by the military, is appalling. I condemn this coup against the Bolivian people, said Corbyn, and I stand with them for democracy, social justice, and independence. Now, do we have any American officials speaking that clearly? Yeah, we have one.
His name is?
Her name is?
Oh, her name is?
Ilhan Omar from Minnesota. She tweeted Sunday, there's a word for the president of a country being pushed out by the military. It's called a coup. Pretty succinct.
And I believe Bernie Sanders is in support of Morales. I believe Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has
that's
as well.
About it.
That's pretty much it, folks. And where are you reading this from, Jack?
This came from Truthdig, I believe. No, Common Dreams.
Okay. There was a part in there where they wrote that Rubio and Trump were parroting the OAS opinion. No, let's just call it what it is. It's an OAS lie.
Yeah, right.
Let's just call it what it is.
Exactly. And that parroting now is turned into a big white green, as that fat pink sucker is probably eating his Twinkies this morning, laughing at the overthrow of a socialist, a dreaded socialist.
Yeah. Oh, you mean the orange bag in the White House? Yeah. Well, there are some countries that aren't putting up with this. I have this story from Telesur English. Thousands of demonstrators marched Tuesday along the main avenue in Argentina's capital to reach the Bolivian embassy in Buenos Aires, condemning the coup that Bolivia is going through and offering full support to the legitimate president Evo Morales. A prominent figure of the Bolivian community in that country, Iber Mamani, thanked the support offered by the social and political organizations of the popular Argentinian countryside that pronounced themselves against the coup and demanded the protection of, quote, the lives of the comrades who today are being persecuted, kidnapped, and tortured, end of quote. The leader of the MST, Vilma Rapoli, also present at the march, expressed her, quote, rejection to the coup carried out by the big bosses, the corporations, and the armed forces, and endorsed by politicians like Mauricio Macri, who until now has not declared anything about it, end of quote. In dialogue with Pagina 12, Rapoli added that Evo Morales, quote, had pending tasks in Bolivia such as the purging of the armed forces, end of quote. Amid flags and traditional Bolivian dances, Argentinian Frente de Toros lawmaker Itai Hagman said, quote, we are here to repudiate what has no other qualification than a coup. We are very concerned about Evo's physical integrity as well as the threat to the region. We have to remember and prevent the return of coups in Latin America, end of quote.
Speaking of the orange bag.
Yeah.
You know, people are forgetting. Morales was just reelected.
Yes.
What, less than a month ago? It was in October.
Yeah.
President Donald Trump celebrated a military coup in Bolivia that forced President Morales, who recently won a fourth term.
Did you say Frump?
To resign on November the 10th. It's a little speech impediment.
Yeah, but where are you reading this from?
This is from Shadowproof.
Okay.
After nearly 14 years in his recent attempt to override the Bolivian Constitution, this is Trump again, blowing hot air, and the will of the people, Morales' departure preserves democracy. Are you kidding me? You overthrow a man 28 days after he's duly elected, and you call that perseverance of democracy? You can't write this stuff.
I've got something to call it.
And the will of the people. Morales' departure preserves democracy and paves the way for Bolivian people to have their voices heard. Trump, they just had their voices heard. The United States applauds the Bolivian people for demanding freedom. The Bolivian people just voted him in. Mm-hmm. Some right-wing extremists you probably sent from the camp called For Americas, whatever it is, were the ones that overthrew him. Not the people. The people voted for him.
And
does he think that nobody knows this crap?
And probably bought and well, I can tell you why they don't know it. It hasn't been covered by any of the networks. ABC, CBS, NBC have not said a word about this coup. And that's exactly what it is.
One last kernel of his puke right here. You ready? The United States applauds the Bolivian people for demanding freedom, and the Bolivian military for abiding by its oath to protect not a single... I can't... It's so crappy.
Yeah.
To protect not just a single person, but Bolivia's constitution. So, Donald, are you saying that you like military action for the furtherance of democracy? That you like military violence and action? You consider that what? The fourth branch of government? Unbelievable. And this kind of crap goes unchallenged right on mainstream media that he spewed.
Jack, you got to remember, this is the same asshole that wanted a military parade.
Yeah.
He's a warmonger.
Yeah.
He fits right in. All of his donors are big military industrial complex.
You know, the real debate is, what does he look better in? The old Nazi uniform? No, seriously. Or the South American Banana Republic strongman outfits. You know, with the big, broad Bill hat. What do you think? Maybe you could combine it. Have a South American jacket on and a Nazi hat or something.
Yeah, no kidding. Actually, it's funny that you mention South American dictators. I actually want to move on to this story real quick. This is also from Democracy Now! This is dated November the 12th. The Chilean government has agreed to rewrite its constitution in order to replace the one that was written during Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet's brutal military regime. The rewriting of the Constitution has been one of the key demands of the massive demonstrations that have rocked Chile in recent weeks. The Chilean authorities have killed at least 19 people and wounded thousands more since the protests erupted on October 19th in response to a subway fare hike and quickly grew into a revolt against austerity and economic inequality. So good for the Chilean people.
Yeah, didn't young college students have a lot to do with that movement?
Yeah.
To overthrow that. There's hope.
Yeah.
But where's it at here in the United States being manifested in the streets?
It's not.
I mean, seriously.
It's not. And we have this story. This is I've got this. This is from Common Dreams. It's dated November 14th. This is by Medea Benjamin and Nicholas J.S. Davies. Headline is, Why Aren't People in the U.S. Rising Up Like Those Elsewhere in the World? The wave of protests breaking out in country after country around the world beg the question, why aren't Americans rising up in peaceful protests like our neighbors? We live at the very heart of this neoliberal system that is force-feeding the systemic injustice and inequality of 19th century laissez-faire capitalism to the people of the 21st century. So we are subject to many of the same abuses that have fueled mass protest movements in other countries, including high rents, stagnant wages, cradle-to-grave debt, ever-rising economic inequality, privatized health care, a shredded social safety net, abysmal public transportation, systemic political corruption, and endless war. We also have a corrupt, racist billionaire as president, who Congress may soon impeach. But where are the masses outside the White House banging pots and pans to drive Trump out? Why aren't people crashing the offices of their congresspeople, demanding that they represent the people or resign? If none of these conditions have so far provoked a new American revolution, what will it take to trigger one? In the 1960s and 70s, the senseless Vietnam War provoked a serious, well-organized anti-war movement. But today, the U.S.'s endless wars just rage on in the background of our lives as the U.S. and its allies kill and mutilate men, women, and children in distant countries, day after day, year after year. Our history has also witnessed inspiring mass movements for civil rights, women's rights, and gay rights, but these movements are much tamer today. The Occupy movement in 2011 came closest to challenging the entire neoliberal system. It awakened a new generation to the reality of government of, by, and for the corrupt 1% and built a powerful basis for solidarity among the marginalized 99%. But Occupy lost momentum because it failed to transition from a rallying point and a decentralized democratic forum to a cohesive movement that could impact the existing power structure. The climate movement is starting to mobilize a new generation, and groups like School Strike for the Climate and Extinction Rebellion take direct aim at this destructive economic system that prioritizes corporate growth and profits over the very survival of life on Earth. But while climate protests have shut down parts of London and other cities around the world, the scale of climate protests in the U.S. does not yet match the urgency of the crisis.
True.
So why is the American public so passive? Election campaigns in most countries last only a few months with strict limits on financing and advertising to try to ensure fair elections. But Americans pour millions of hours and billions of dollars into multi-year election campaigns run by an ever-growing sector of the commercial advertising industry, which even awarded Barack Obama its Marketer of the Year award for 2008. The other finalists were not John McCain or the Republicans, but Apple, Nike, and Coors Beer.
But he's a black marketer.
Wow.
Not the black market, the black marketer. That was his claim to legitimacy. But the truth is, he was in bed with the corporation.